see the perspective now from our own VC, Gnosis VC, with Danielle representing it, and with Natalie from Polymorphic. We called it a fireside chat, but it's not so much fire. This will be a peaceful conversation, as Natalie mentioned. So yeah, please give a round of applause to our speakers.
Guess it's an AC chat.
Yeah, it's an AC chat, full on, not a fireside. Oh, we're confusing people here, you see? We're kind of
that was my
attracting
suggestion
attention. That's my best side, actually. You know, that's why I'm here. Cool. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So about me, hi, I'm Daniele. I'm one of the partners at Gnosis VC. We're just a very recently established venture arm of Gnosis. We just secured a $20 million seeding round into the fund from Gnosis DAO. Just the earlier this month, I think it was like July 2nd or July 3rd was when it was all finalized. We are focusing on 3 verticals: payments, middleware, RWAs, and decentralized infrastructure. Keeping it as vague as possible for lots of reasons, which maybe get into maybe later. So we won't have time for this, but. And yeah, we already started deploying, and yeah, excited to be here. Hi, Natalia.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie. I work for Polymorphic Capital. We are early stage Web3 VC. We invest in everything from pre-seed up to Series A, everything that is easy to say that we focus on everything that is non-gaming, non-NFT, non-infrastructure. That's why it's interesting to have, I think it's cool to have Daniel here with us today because they focus on infrastructure, while we are not infrastructure focused whatsoever. So yeah, we have 50 million assets management. We're around 50% of deployment already. We're looking for projects to invest into, and we're going to touch that in a bit in terms of like what exactly it is that we're looking in our investees. But yeah, I majority of time focus on portfolio development, or we call it an ecosystem development, also communication, marketing, and as in like every small team, people have to wear many different hats. So I'm also involved in the pipeline process and investment process as well. And I feel like that's actually how this idea of whole fireside AC chat came up to me, was because like it feels like it's important to educate people, or at least give the perception of how VC looks into the process of investment, because I know that when you build your own project, it's difficult to think about all the small details, like what should be in your deck, how do you should communicate to VCs where to find funds and all of that. There seems to be easy things when you do investment, when you are part of investment team, but it mightn't be that obvious for projects who are going to raise, or like people who are looking into raising funds anytime soon. So we just decided to do some good here and unveil some of the secrets of how do we as a VC look into this process and kind of just share some insights. Hopefully it's going to be useful, but yeah, that's actually it for our. We don't have any slides.
Yeah, no slides. We're just going to riff, and then hopefully you guys ask good questions later.
Yes.
So,
exactly.
So Natalia, what do you look for in a deck?
In a deck?
Yeah.
Well,
do you look at decks?
Not only deck. You know, it's not important only deck. But actually. Yeah, so I feel like it's important to mention that it's not only deck that matters. Sometimes founders, I feel like, spend too much time on kind of design and designing their keynotes, et cetera, thinking about all the colors and icons. But honestly, like if you have the demo that works, send through the demo. If you have one pager, send one pager. If you have data room, which you're going to look more professional, I have to say. If you have just a link for data room upload, there's something, you know. Then that's also important. And maybe I feel like that's the key things. And just we're not interested in kind of looking at the big, overview of the market, or we just discussed it today. Like in every deck, we have comparison of you, of course, and your competitors, and you, the only one and the most beautiful and amazing and the smartest guys in the room, have all the green toggles, of course, right? And how competitors don't have something that you guys have. This is, I feel like, a totally useless slide. But what is important, I feel like, is the team. Because we're looking into the teams who combine actually the industry experience plus Web3 experience. It's kind of ideal for us. But just having like experienced team, guys who knows what they're doing, or just dedicated enough, who have the vision, they're strategic. I feel like that's very, very important for us, at least at the beginning. But yeah, again, as I said, like data room, working demo, deck, one pager, everything that you can provide, do that. But yeah, I feel like maybe also actually worth mentioning that blurb is super important. Like no one is gonna read the whole like big text of whatever you have there prepared and cooked. But blurb is essential. Like just narrow down to the most important things, and we're gonna pick it up from there. What about you?
Well, I agree with everything she said, obviously. I'm going to do like the standard Fireside chat response where I toggle all the... I agree with everything. We're not going to get into a fight. I will add that, so personally, like, so what I focus on specifically is doing more like the more technical due diligence of projects. So my experience of the deck is a very specific kind. It could be, there's not a one size fits all for all VCs. I tend to want to see an idea in the deck. I will just scroll through it really fast. And my purpose is I want to understand what the idea is without any technicalities, and then I want to mull over your idea until between the moment I understand it, I picked up on it, till the time I actually meet you and actually have you present your pitch, right? I want to have an idea in my mind of, okay, this is a cool, whether it's cool or not, that's irrelevant. Like if I were to do this, how would this look like? How would this be implemented? Where do I think the bottlenecks would be? And then I want to jump on a call with whether it's the founder or the CTO, and I want to hear how they envisioned it, right? Obviously, I expect their vision to be way more sophisticated than mine because I just kind of got casually thought about it for a week, whereas you're supposedly presenting like a very fundamental element of your life's work. So immediately, like I want to be, also it prepares me to ask questions, obviously, but that's secondary. So ultimately, like the pitch deck isn't particularly relevant for me. It's more about how you can you get the idea across, just like the bare minimum, like really the bare minimum. She said a blurb. It could really just be like a blank, like a white slide with like 2 lines of text. That would probably be enough for me until I meet you, and then blurb? You could do what?
But that's blurb, no?
Yeah, that's blurb. Yeah, absolutely. It's not like it's nobody actually like spends time on reading the pitch. But the most time spent on the pitch will maybe be when you actually pitch in person, like with the VCs. Like no VC is going to go home and print out your pitch deck and just kind of like pour over the slides like, oh, look at that contrast. Nobody cares about that. So yeah, no, I want to see a good idea, and then obviously I want to hear you presenting your idea. And like you said, what matters the most is, can you actually implement it? Because you can always steal an idea, right? Like it's the internet, right? You can probably go like read enough on the internet and come up with like some hodgepodge of ideas that kind of sounds reasonable, and you could totally pitch it. But then the moment I speak to you, I'm going to understand it's a hodgepodge and it's not something that you've internalized, that you've like made like yours, right? But that said, there's more stuff. Obviously, there's obviously the aspects of valuations and like how much you want to raise. So like I didn't say this at the beginning, she did, we both Polymorphic and Gnosis VCs focus on early stage investments. So obviously the valuation in early stage investment is super important. Right. And I don't know, do you want to say something about this?
Yeah, I said agree, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So like people think there's this tug and pull between, okay, you want to raise money, fantastic, because you need the money to build a project, right? And you want to raise money at some valuation. This valuation means a lot more than you think in the moment. Like you have to think about, this valuation implies what your next valuation is going to be down the road. Like you're maybe raising an early stage or an angel seed investment. What's going to happen when you do a private round? God forbid, a growth round when you get to it, right? You have to think about that, like all the capital that's going to be coming into your project over the next 2 to 5 years has to be justified and has to be potentially like a good investment for whoever's giving you the capital. And so where you start off has a direct impact to what the other rounds are going to be. And you do not want to have a down round. Like you never want, if you have a down round, like you're basically dead. Like, yeah, you can turn it around. In theory, you can turn around. In practice, you're basically dead. So it's really important to think that your valuations need to be able to grow from there. So they have to be reasonable. But at the same time, you want to raise the money that you need to fulfill your project. It has to be sensible. You can't just go to a VC and say, oh, I just need $10,000 to do like a $2 million project. Like nobody's going to believe it, right?
Yeah, for sure, I totally agree. Actually, that's a really good point that you have to be strategic. And I know for a fact that, like, for example, when our portfolio companies were raising some of the VCs, actually asked them, like, what are you going to do with all those money that you're actually raising right now? And the guys just didn't know what to answer at the point. And it was kind of a red flag because, like, why are you requesting money? You're definitely not strategic here right now. Right, and that's a kind of valid question. If I give you the money, then I want to see that you actually know what you're going to do with it, and it's not just marketing, airdrops, and all of that. It should be like kind of the decision there should be. You should know what you're going to do with that. So yeah, I totally agree with you on this.
And for the record, this applies not just to the valuation, but also to how much you're raising, because you could say, okay, well then I should keep the valuation low. So let's say I want to raise at a $10 million valuation, but I'm going to try. Let's raise, instead of doing a private round in the future, let's try raising, I don't know, $5 million at a $10 million valuation. That way I don't have to raise later, and there's a better chance that my valuation goes up after this, right? Assuming you can justify the $5 million and it doesn't, like Natalia said, right? But even there, that would not be good because if you're successful, let's say you've justified the $5 million, I want to give you, well, not necessarily like Gnosis VC by itself, but potentially like a group of investors give you collectively $5 million. And let's say you do your job, you actually build something, you launched a product, you get going. At your next raise, you've already given up like 50% of your equity or tokens or whatever, we'll get to this later, but like some mixture of the value of your company. So whoever comes in later, what are they going to get? If for the money you're gonna want to try raising from them, they're gonna get very little, which means they're either not gonna invest with you, or you're gonna have to go have a very awkward conversation with your early investors about like, can we dilute your share in the company because we have to be able to like to give something for the investment to our next round of investors, and nobody wants to dilute their shares in the project, especially a successful project.
I totally agree. Yeah. Maybe we can also, like, on the point of being strategic, maybe we can also cover, like, if you, let's say, you're an early stage startup and you're seeking to raising funds, and the VC actually is not the only option that you can go with. Let's say you tried your luck, you went to like a bunch of maybe humiliating, maybe not successful conversation with VCs, and you were just not successful. You just didn't raise money. What should you do? And there are actually like a couple of options that you can go with. Like the easiest one, of course, the easy solution, go with grants. Try to get a grant, or like my advice would be try and get angel checks. We actually talk to people who has like from 1 million up to 10 million, just angel rounds. And if you're dedicated to your project, if you believe in that, then just take the money and try to build it. Try to be committed full on, like put your money on the table there. And then at least you're going to have something to start with, and then you're going to either pivot or be dead. Hopefully not. I wish you that. But it's also like a point. And when you go to the VC, for example, I don't know, do you have anything to add here?
No, that's totally, I would argue that it's better to pivot to fail at the angel round than to fail later on. Because failing later on is when you're at that point, like you've basically tied your identity to the project in a very strong way. So failing later on is just the further on you fail, the heavier the repercussion is on you as a founder. And VCs know each other, so how VCs are treated by your project, how you performed on your project. It's like this stuff gets around. So like Natalia said, like you want to, like if you raise an angel seed, or if you, honestly, even when you raise a grant, like really like make the most out of it. Like put your money where your mouth is, spit some blood, deliver the product.
Yeah. I agree. But
what about choosing investors?
Choosing investor, that's a really good point. Like reading my mind here, not prepared here though. But yeah, like I feel like it's important to know from whom you're raising, why it is that this particular VC should give you money. Try to adapt your pitch, try to adapt your blurb, try to be relevant to them, why it is that you want to raise from them. It could be relevant portfolio that they have, and you already have multiple ideas how you're going to enrich their portfolio or their products. Or it might be because people are really good, like well-connected individuals, and they might help you personally as well. This is also the good point. And actually, I do believe, like, if you're as a founder, have this clear vision, and on the call with the VC, you actually like dare to ask questions as well. Something that you're particularly interested about them or their journey or their help or their value that they add to the table, then it actually puts you to kind of equal position. You're not in the weak position where you're asking or begging for money with the hand right there, but you're actually kind of like equal, and you have this equal conversation, which is really, really important. As Daniel said, like VCs know each other. We like people talk, we do we do share deals. We invite people to the table if we think it's interesting. If we know that this particular is going to be a good fit, that is going to be a good value add, then yeah, I feel like that's very important. To be nice to founders, to VCs that you speak to, even though if they didn't end up investing in you, be nice to them. They can maybe introduce you to someone, and maybe you can, the words, like people, again, as I said, people talk. And if you were not nice, then, well, good luck to you along the way. But yeah.
Like think of VCs as people with like a colossal amount of imposter syndrome. Seriously, they have lots of money to throw around on paper, right? But they need to justify to themselves that they're doing something with that. They're actively doing something with that, right? So they're gonna want they want to participate, okay? And this applies across the entire spectrum of the VC you might find in front of you, which is both can lead to something really good or something really bad. So on the good side, basically what Natalia just said, like a VC wants to participate, right? A smart VC thinks, okay, I've got other portfolio companies, right? I'm gonna invest into companies strategically because I'm gonna typically have a vertical, I have some thesis, I wanna see synergies in the companies that I invest in. So if I invest in you, it's because I think there could potentially be a synergy with some other project in my portfolio, not just in terms of diversification, but also in terms, if these two projects succeed together, they can succeed way better than if one of them succeeds on its own, kind of thing, right? So I want to be able to invest in a project where I feel I can be a value add. And you, someone pitching to a VC, you want that VC to be like that kind of VC to contribute value to your project. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have really dumb money, and there's tons of it. There's tons of really dumb money, right? The problem is that the people with the dumb money have just as much imposter syndrome. They want to have a say. They want to add value to your project. And what this means is that they typically don't understand your project, first of all. And what this means is that they're gonna like push you in directions that like are not the organic direction that you want to move the project. I've seen this happening before. Like all projects go through ups and downs. You get into moments where like your runway is stressed, your runway is crunched, right? And then like, if you have a dumb money VC that's investing in you, yeah, he gave you money, that's good, cool, good for you. But when you get to that moment, guess what? That person's gonna be on the phone asking you to pivot to some bullshit narrative that he read on Twitter that morning, okay? And when you're stressed out, trying to make a product work, trying to launch something, try to just make things happen, that is the last type of stress that you want to have. So another reason to pick your VCs accordingly. Like, don't just go for the money. I mean, obviously you want to raise money to build a project. I get it. But think strategically about the people that are giving you the money. What are they going to do for you? Like, how are you going to let them vent their need to justify their having given money to the project? Because ultimately what a VC wants to do, like, a VC isn't just like spraying and praying. I mean, like, there's some of that too. But like, there's like, it's like they want to be active, because if you're active and you're active in the right way and in a smart way, you maximize. It's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for the project. It's a win-win for your portfolio. It's a win-win for the LPs in the fund. So yeah, think about your VCs very strategically. And you want to add something on here? No. Sorry if I talked about dumb money. I guess, do we have time?
Yeah, that's.
Should we talk about tokens versus equity?
Go for it. Yeah, sure.
No, you want to go first?
No, you go.
I go first?
Yeah, I'm gonna. No, you go, and I will be like, yeah, I agree.
Okay, fine. Okay, so when you present your project, typically, the projects are presented in two ways, especially in Web3. You're either promising a token at some point, or you're trying to sell equity in a project. That's like selling equity is like the more traditional way what someone in traditional finance would understand as a normal VC investment. The last cycle mania still has ripples in our space. You tend to want to think, oh, we just got to get to token launch. And honestly, a lot of people expect you to token launch. You hear the question, the meme question, when token, right? Typically the dumb money investors also are going to be asking you when token immediately, right? Now, I'm not saying that your project shouldn't have a token. I mean, there are reasons to have a token. I can't agree with all of them, but there are reasons to have a token, right? But just so you know, if you're pitching a project with a token, just one rule: nobody gives a fuck about your governance. Nobody. Okay? So if you're going to shill a token, a smart investor is going to ask you, what is this token for? Whatever you do not answer to have people vote on protocol changes. That is not, that's basically telling me your token's going to be worthless. Like you should have a value proposition for your token, what your token does. It's a hard question to answer, I'm not going to lie. That's why, like, it's hard to justify having a token sometimes. But, like, think about it very deeply. Typically, you want to have, I'd like to see, like, ideally, you'd like to have a fully fledged tokenomics, at least in your mind, that you can present on a pitch. Maybe not quantitatively, like, all defined, but obviously the more defined, the better. Otherwise, you can do an equity deal. The problem with equity deals is that it's a very specific type of investment. So, for example, like at Gnosis VC, we look at like payments middleware, right? We look at infrastructure plays. These are all plays that we think that in a maturing Web3 environment could be like acqui-hired through mergers with bigger operations. So that's a scenario where I'm fine with a project not having any token whatsoever. If I can get equity in it, then this equity can accrue value in other ways. Anything you want to add here?
No, I think I totally agree. One of my questions was, actually, I was super curious myself, like what are you as a Gnosis VC looking into? Like, is it token, equity, whatever, but I guess you covered that. I would say maybe just to add a little bit of value here to what you just said, I feel like when you think about token, and especially if you put it on the deck, don't put it at the beginning of the deck, because when I see the token at the beginning of the deck, I'm like, damn, this is gonna be some scam most of the time. So just think about how it incorporates into your pitch. How is it exactly just adds value to your project, and how are you gonna talk about it to me? Like, how are you gonna present to me? No governance, as we said, no one gives any. Don't swear here, but you got me right. No one cares about your governance. No one cares about how you're gonna organize that. But if you're strategic, again, if you find a good angle to that, and if you also you know what you're gonna do with this token. Is it gonna be like just marketing growth thing for you? Is it gonna be like you're gonna reward the crowd, like the core builders, and that's already like you're already being strategic here. You already understand what you're gonna do with this token, why you need it, and how you're gonna distribute it. And maybe you already have a marketing place. I don't know, whatever. But at least again, you're just strategic about it. You understand why you need this, not just because everybody's launching a token, and then I thought like it could be nice to have a token as well. So yeah, I feel like maybe that's the only thing that I would have to add here.
Also, like you can also not talk about a token, even if you have a token in your mind,
and
let the VC propose the token. Because then also, this going back to what I said before, the imposter syndrome, they feel like they're contributing value to your project, right? It's like,
have you ever done that yourself?
Have you thought about the tokens? And you'd be like, oh, I have not.
Sounds like an ideal scenario, but whatever happens.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. I apologize. I didn't know it was PG-13. I think I swore a couple of times.
I think we covered everything that we wanted to initially. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much for the speech. Just a quick question. So, based on your experience, because you talked to many startups, etc. So, is there any typical good practices you see startups implement in terms of their token utilities? Because, naturally, I guess many startups think, okay, I will distribute some actual revenue to token holders, but then it's a risk of getting accepted as security for the token, etc. So maybe there are some bullet points or typical practices which you really like when startups implement their token utility.
I mean, so going back to tokens, it's really project specific. There's no one size fits all. Like you correctly mentioned, the big elephant in the room that's been in the room for forever, basically. There is the obvious way to justify tokens in projects, and that is through revenue share to token holders, right? The problem is that that's called dividends, and that falls under securities law. So if you're going to do any sort of revenue share, which I fully endorse, like in theory, that is the thing. Like if you have any cash flows and your plan is to donate the cash flows to your token holders, that's a legit, valid usage of a token, right? But the first thing we're going to ask you is, what jurisdiction are we playing in, right? Like it's what is your legal strategy? How are you planning to handle this? And you got to have answers for all those things. So revenue share aside, which I hope we'll be able to cross that Rubicon one day. you want to see value accrual in other ways. So typically, what you see is like projects that we've looked at. It's projects that have some regulatory in. So they'll have some license or they'll have bought some license from some other financial player. By the way, this is another thing that's happening very commonly right now in the stablecoin space. What happens is that to even like play the Mika game, you need to have access to licenses, specific financial licenses, and you doing them from scratch would basically make you a latecomer and you'd be not competitive at all. So there's like a rush to like buy licenses from like small banks or like failing banks and whatnot. So if I see a project that has that kind of strategy, like even if the whole regulatory angle isn't fully resolved, I may be willing to take a stab on that. You know, like it's like I do like in the macro view is the climate. I do see the climate changing, the regulatory climate changing over the next years. So why not? That's a good gamble to take. Other utility tokens, I mean, what's the utility? That's the question. What's the utility? And the answer better not be governance. Is that your same answer?
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking a lot about the project, but let's talk about your value proposition for startups. Why startups need to go to ask your money?
Well, I'm gonna speak about Gnosis VC. I mean, like you basically get like the whole Gnosis ecosystem, like the connections of the Gnosis ecosystem, like out of the box. So you know, like we're on speed dial with Gnosis Safe. We're on speed dial with other portfolio projects. It really depends. Again, it still really depends on the project. Like, what is your project? Like, I may not be able to add value to your project, but I know I'll be able to add value to a lot of other projects. So it's very specific. I don't know what the answer from Polymorphic is.
I would say in our case, it's our definitely amazing, well-connected individuals in the team. We have like amazing venture partners, amazing partners in our firm, researchers and associates. They're like, just as I said, OGs that can be very, very helpful in terms of like, connections, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to build. But also we have a really decent portfolio. Again, it's, as I said, we're not an ecosystem, but we have amazing portfolio that can help you as well and could be beneficial for your projects or for whatever it is that you're building. I feel like these are the two important things, like portfolio and again the value of the people in the team, because you're gonna have to work with them, right? They're gonna trying to help you somehow, and you should know that they have something between their ears, you know, that they're gonna add value with their advices. So I feel like in our case, it's these two things which are the most important.
Can I add one question? Also, we can help you close the round. Don't underestimate that. Like it's, you know, like typically depending on the project, like a fund will. You know, I can be super like down, like I love your project, I'm sold, like take my money, but I'm not going to give you your entire round, right? I have to be reasonable with what kind of ticket I want to fill based on your project, the maturity of your project, how much you've built out, like what is the needs that your project actually requires, right? But I can find people that are aligned with that have other portfolio companies that are aligned with the portfolio companies in my fund, and I can get them to potentially help you close the raise.
Or actually, that's on this topic. Actually, I feel like in our case we're really good with other good VCs, and we know why we can bring someone on board, why they can be a good value to you as on your cap table, let's say. So I feel like that's also very, very important. And even like when I go to event, I see the people coming over and be like, oh, you're from Polymorphic, like I know your partners, I know they're really great guys. So I feel like this is one of the things that is like essential whenever you pick a VC, and Polymorphic in particular in our case, I would say that's definitely the way to go. So yeah, I hope it answers your question.
We have time for one more question.
Look at me. A question about your internal process. So how many meetings, reviews, and time do you take before you make a decision? So this is one. So how much, like 1, 2, 3, 4, then we make a decision? And what is the time frame? And do you prefer the project to lead you, so tell you, okay, you have a month and whatever you need, I will give you within that, then I want a decision? Or you want to lead that time-wise?
I think that's a really great and relevant question as well. And I do believe like for every VC is going to be different processes, but in our case, for example, we have 2 meetings internal, which is a pipeline call and IC call. That's where we internally discuss the idea, that's where we discuss the decks, blah, blah, blah. They actually, sync with everyone in the team so that everyone understands why we're making this decision. If anyone has any issues, that's the time to discuss. But also, I would say it's also really an ad hoc process. It really depends on the project, because sometimes we also get a deal that someone shares with us and they want us on the table, and we are really we have really time pressure, so we need to focus and kind of make people understand why this is important. So sometimes it can take from 1 week to up 3-4 weeks. It really depends on the project. And to answer your question about how quick do we prefer to do it, I think it's also, again, depends on the project. I see, basically from myself, it definitely adds up to the speed of decision making, to put the deadline out there. We need to make the decision here and there. But then if you impose on us on a deadline, and then we understand that you just gave us the deadline to kind of push us into commitment, then it's just not a nice behavior, because when we see that, okay, we definitely in the kind of competing for the allocation here with other VCs, and we see that, okay, this does make sense to kind of hurry up, because we have a pipeline of other things to go through. It's not just, doing the deals and discussing this and kind of be like, okay, I wrote the memo, please read it. So it's a lot of things to do, and if we see that you pushed us and at 10th of the day you didn't fill in you didn't close the round, or there was no actual point for that, then it's just not very nice. But I say it definitely adds up to the decision making, kind of to make it quicker on our end, to kind of to put the deadline, or at least discuss it. Hey guys, we talked to different VCs. We would appreciate your feedback by this amount of time. But to be flexible is very, very important here, I guess, for both sides. So I feel like it really depends on the project, at least for us.
So again, I agree with everything she said. I would add that it also depends on the amount of background work that would need to be done. So often, for example, I don't know, you'll review a project whose value proposition is some partnerships. They'll say we've got partnerships lined up, okay? And you'll ask them, what are the partnerships? And they'll give you a slide, or they'll tell you about the partnerships, right? Those partnerships aren't just living on the moon. I can call them and ask them what you're doing together, what they think about you. And all those things, right? So, by the way, parentheses here, don't shill partnerships that you don't have, because we will find out. But second of all, yeah, it's how much background work needs to be done. Sometimes it can be fast. Typically at the very least, you're talking about you meet the founders, you have you go through a pitch call, you have a pipeline review. You have a follow-up call with follow-up questions, and then you have an IC meeting where you vote on whether you want to fund that project. That's the bare minimum. There can be a lot more steps added in between depending on what the project is, and there can be also there can also be back and forth depending on whether you want how much of a ticket you want to fill, whether you want to lead the round. Because another thing that VCs sometimes want to do is they want to be the leader of your round. They want to lead your round, right? That's a very important portfolio company for them if they want to lead your round. So that's a big decision that needs to be made. What else? Sometimes there could be time pressures, like you said. There could be legitimate, honest to God time pressures. The example I did before about licensing deals, that they're popping up now. Licensing deals are on a timer. We need to pay for this license by X date, or it's going to go to the next bidder. Right, because they're sometimes they're sold at auction, for example, and so we need to close the round. We need to raise X amount of money, of which Y will be used instantaneously for this license. And the whole thesis of the investment depends on that license. So if you're in, and you got to go quick.
Thank you so much. This is a wrap up. I'm sorry, but we need to close this session. Amazing tips, amazing conversation. If you have any more questions, both Danielle and Natalia and Alex will be around, so just approach them. And thank you so much.
Thank you.